Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to Mrs. Bandu's Math Movies. This is Lesson 5-3 for Course 3, Percents and Proportions. So we're going to be looking at percent questions using proportions here. Remember, a proportion is a pair of ratios that are equivalent to each other. So to use proportion, our objective is to use proportions to find part of a whole amount, or a percent. Okay, basically the whole lesson is focused on this one basic equation, or proportion, excuse me, is the part over the whole is equal to the percent over 100. And various different parts are missing. If you can remember this and how to fill in the pieces, then you don't have to memorize how to find each one in particular. It does show you how the three separate things look: finding the part, finding the whole, and finding the percent. The one thing that's always constant in this proportion is the 100, because remember, percent is per 100 or out of 100. Okay. So let's look at the first one, finding the part. What number is 20% of 25? Okay, when I fill these in, the first thing I notice is if I know the percent, that goes over the 100. That's the easiest part to find out. The whole here is 25. The whole is always generally preceded by the word of, and I always call this 25 is like the of number. The number that follows the word of in a proportion is going to be on the bottom. And then the part that we're looking for is n. So that would be the way to set up that proportion. Finding the whole. 5 is 20% of what number? So again, I know that 20% is 20 over 100. Then, of what number? That means my missing number is the whole. So that's the variable. 5 is the part. So 5 goes on top. And finally, finding the percent. 5 is what percent of 25? So again, for me, the easiest one to find is the percent. So P over 100, P is the missing number. Of indicates 25 is going to be my whole. 5 is the part. That's just the logical way for me to fill this in. You may have your own little tricks that help you fill this in, please. That's certainly fine. Use what works for you. Okay, so let's look at some questions here. Finding part of a whole. Find 32% of 240. Okay, a diagram might help you understand the problem. So if I have 32%, I want to know what part that is of 32% is, excuse me, I want to know what 32% of 240 is. So my whole is 240. The part is what's missing. I don't know how much this is numerically. I just know that it's percent. Sorry about this. Let me get that to where you can see it. Is 32%. So using this information, either with or without the diagram, okay, I want to find out, again, 32%. I almost always fill in the percent first again, because to me that's the easiest one to do. I'm looking for the part, so I don't know what that is. That's on top. And the whole is 240. Back to that equation that I wrote at the proportion I wrote at the very top. Okay, now I'm going to write cross products. So 100 times n. We always use our top number. Tells us which side we write that product on. So since n is on the top here, we're going to keep the n on this side. And then 240 times 32. 32 is on the right-hand side, so we keep its product on the right-hand side. So when we write our products, 100n equals 240 times 32. So 240 times 32 is 7,680. And then we want to solve for n by dividing each side by 100. Okay, at this point you can hopefully do this in your head. Dividing by 100 moves your decimal point 2 places back to the left, so this is 76.8. Okay, check it on the calculator if you don't trust yourself, but you should get 76.8. Okay, so here we set up our proportion, we used our cross products and algebra to solve. This is what I'm going to expect you to be able to do. I understand that there are shortcuts, but remember, we are very much about processes this year, not always just the shortcuts. Okay, there's a quick check here. Save it for later, or do it now and pause. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to move on to example number 2. Okay, again, they've given us a diagram. If you find them helpful, that's fine. Suppose 11,550 elementary students make up 14% of a city's population. What is the population of the city? Okay, so I'm actually looking for the whole here because I don't know what the population of the city is. But I know that 11,550 is 14% of that. Okay, so my proportion is the part 11,550 over the whole is equal to 14 over 100, my percent of 14%. Again, I'm going to write my cross products, or find my cross products. So this is going to be 11,550 times 100 equals 14 times W. Okay, so this is then 1155000. So 1,155,000 equals 14W. Now we want to simplify by dividing each side by 14. Okay, when we get that, you'll want to use your calculator. You're going to get 82,500 equals W. So the population of the city is 82,500 people. Okay, so I'm going to double check that. 1,155,123 divided by 14 equals 82,500. I know, there you go. Okay, again, you should have a calculator handy when you were doing this anyway. Okie doke. And finally, our next example is 26 is what percent of 80? Okay, now I don't know the percent on this, so that's why I have P over 100. Again, the easiest one to pick out is the percent one. 26 is the part, 80 follows the word of, so 80 is the whole. So 26 over 80 equals P over 100. I'm going to do my cross products, 26 times 100, and then 80 times P. So 2600 equals 80P. Then I'm going to divide each side by 80. So 2600 divided by 80 equals 32.5. So that's 32.5%. So you just, in this case, have to simplify and insert the percent sign, because the 100 back here, as this term, takes care of placement of decimals or anything, so you're not needing to move your decimal point back there. Okay. All right, there are 2 more quick checks here that I'd like you to have all 3 of these completed for class. As always, I want you to come in with any questions you might have so that we can proceed from there. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.